Well, I'll just admit that I'm a big fan of nitrous oxide. I've had a system on pretty much every car I've owned over the last 10 years. And the reason is pretty simple. There's no cheaper way to get a lot of bang for your buck. In reality, nitrous is one of the nicest things you can do to your car engine if you're going to add extra horsepower. Now, I like the kits from Nitrous Oxide Systems because they give you everything you need. They're very complete and well put together. And this is a company that has basically become synonymous with nitrous oxide. It's right there in the name. We're going to be installing this NOS power shot system on a 1972 Challenger, which has a 402 cubic inch stroker small block backed by a torque flight automatic transmission. Now, the NOS power shot system is the simplest way to add up to 125 horsepower to any V6 or V8 engine that's got a 4-barrel carburetor. There's no jets to change. It's just plug and play. This is really the easiest, safest way to add nitrous to a classic muscle car. Now, a quality nitrous oxide system doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and that's another big advantage. It's one of the least expensive ways to add, quite a bit of horsepower to your car, and we're actually going to see what our gains are here doing before and after testing on the dyno. So let's dive into it here and take a look at what's involved in actually putting the system on. It's something that you can accomplish in your driveway in basically an afternoon. Invite your buddies over, have a good time, and by that evening you're going to have some extra power for the strip. All right, our first two dyno tests, we ended up with 295 horsepower to the rear wheels and 321 foot-pounds of torque. And then a second pull where we got 305 and 332. So they're pretty good numbers, but we can do a lot better than that once we get the system on and get it activated. And of course, the real proof of how well this system works is once the car's back on the rollers. So let's get to it. The actual installation is really straightforward. It's pretty basic. You've got the process of putting the plate in between the intake manifold and the carburetor. You've got the plumbing, and there's two components to that. We're picking up fuel from just the regular 5 to 6 psi that the mechanical fuel pump puts out, and bringing the nitrous forward from the tank and the trunk. And then, of course, there's the electrical wiring, and basically you've got an arming switch and you've got a wide open throttle switch. Now, of course, NOS also offers tunable kits that have interchangeable jets so you can control the power level. But for this system, it's really just about as simple as it can get. You don't have to fool with any jets. You don't have to worry about whether you're setting it up properly. That's all taken care of straight out of the box. Now, a lot of people are under the misconception that nitrous oxide is a fuel. It's not. It's an oxidizer. It brings more oxygen to the party. The science behind it is not terribly complicated, but basically what happens is you've got this nitrous oxide molecule that when it gets into the combustion chamber, the heat that's left over from the previous combustion cycle causes it to break apart into 2 nitrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. And the energy required to do that actually buffers the combustion a little bit. People say, oh, well, why don't you just feed pure oxygen in there? And that would be an uncontrolled burn. The nitrous oxide makes for a much smoother combustion event. And you're bringing that extra oxygen, and you're also bringing along fuel, and that's why you've got 2 solenoids on the system. You're supplying that extra fuel, and that's what makes the horsepower. Now, one thing you have to consider with nitrous oxide is that it does raise cylinder pressure, and that can mean that sometimes you need to back off the timing a little bit. A good rule of thumb is backing it off 1 degree of base timing for every 50 horsepower that you're adding with nitrous oxide. Again, you can read the plugs and take a good look at what your timing is doing and make sure that you're in a safe zone. But with this kit, you follow the instructions, you're not going to have a problem. All right, so our installation is done. We've done our dyno testing. How did we do? Pretty good, actually. We got 381 horsepower on our first pull, 386 on our second pull. But that's not really the story here. If you take a look at this dyno graph, you can see that how much extra power this has added an area under the curve, not just at peak horsepower. And that's the beauty of nitrous oxide. As soon as that system starts working, it's adding those extra ponies. So you're not just wringing the engine out right at its RPM red line. You can actually feel that power all through the rub band, and that translates into quicker ETs at the track. Well, we didn't spend a whole lot of time installing this. We didn't spend a whole lot of money buying it. So you know, this is really the best of all possible worlds. We're getting that extra horsepower, we're not putting a lot of strain on the engine when the system isn't in use, and when it is in use, we know that this is a system that's been engineered to be safe for our car. You really can't go wrong with this. And like I said, I put nitrous on a lot of different cars. There's a reason for that. You just can't beat the bang for the buck.